Hello everyone, Shaman here. Today I'm talking about KeePass, which is a password manager. I'm also going to be talking about password managers in general. So, password managers. What are password managers? Password managers are used for administrators and users alike who need to keep track of their username and password details. Their username and password details because in an average person may only be able to remember a few passwords, and then after that, they may start writing them down on pieces of paper, or worse, have them in a text file, with their username and password, which is a big no-no, as I've talked about, the differences between encrypted information and clear text information. So if someone has their passwords in a clear text format, that's a big no-no. It also helps you keep track of your usernames and stuff, so it just makes authentication and password management and user management much more easy to handle for the end user and the administrator. So some administrators may need to take care of 50, 60, 100 different systems that may have different passwords, stuff like that. So we need a way of keeping track. So that's where KeePass comes in. Now there are many different password managers. There's KeePass, there's LastPass, which is another password manager, and essentially they all have the same characteristics. They have a database where you can store the information, and they have an encryption method. So they have it where it's either local to your machine, or it's either a browser plugin. So LastPass is a browser plugin that works for your web apps and stuff like that. LastPass is pretty much the same thing, and they offer other types of encryption methods and other different protections. So KeePass is one of the most popular ones. LastPass is also very popular, and then there's tons of other ones as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and install it. The installation procedure is pretty straightforward. KeePass is available at keepass.info. So I've just downloaded it. We're going to run the install. So the install is nothing special. I'm installing it on Windows because I know that some of the most popular download for KeePass is on a Windows OS. Okay, we're going to accept it. Next. Create a desktop shortcut and install. So the installation, like I say, is very straightforward. Okay, so now that it's installed, we're going to launch KeePass. Okay, so the first thing I'll ask is if we want to enable update check. We'll say enable, and this is the KeePass application. So first thing we'll do is file, new, and we're going to be creating a new database. So we'll say okay. And where do we want to store the database? I'll just put the desktop for now. And you'll store it wherever you want. Typically, You may want to store it somewhere. It doesn't really matter the database itself where you store it. You can store it on a USB stick, so it's on the go with you, or on a shared drive, or the shared drive option. Actually, what some teams do is they have a database of passwords, and everyone that has KeePass can import that database, the encrypted database, and then they have the master password for passwords that may be shared for, say, root accounts or admin accounts, stuff like that, if you're in that situation. Okay. So the first thing you'll do is generate a master password. Okay, so I'll just generate any old password. Okay, next option, and one of my favorite options, is having a passphrase and a key file. So what a key file is another form of authentication. So what happens is that we're going to generate or create a file. We'll just call it key file for now. And what this key file is a file with a randomly generated key that you got to move your mouse around for atrophy, which is randomized characters. So the whole thinking is that the more randomly you move around your mouse, the more random of a key you'll get, and then click OK. And we're going to click OK again. So then you make a database name, just put test. You can go to security. You can select the two encryption algorithms. So I'll just select AES for now, and then click OK. You can print an emergency sheet, which has a bunch of details in case you're in a bad scenario. And so here's the KeePass once it's done. So let's log out. I'm not going to print that. We will log out. Exit. We'll save the database changes before we go. And now let's see what happens when we log in. My VM is a little slow, so that's not KeePass that's being that slow. So in this case, I have a master password and key file. So what happens if I just put in the master password? Okay, if I put in just the master password, it's going to say that the key is invalid and that the file is not there, the key file. So I'll need both in order to access my database of passwords. So it's a second factor of authentication. So even if someone guessed your password, if you have this key file with you at all times, or in a different area on maybe another system with a different password, or on a USB stick, and that USB stick is the only place with the key file, then it's almost like a second factor authentication. Okay. And then to add an entry, simply right click, click add entry, and then you can put, whatever I'll say website XYZ, and then password. and then click OK, and this is what it'll look like. One of the features, the security features built in, is that when you right click on one of these, you can copy the password. Now what happens is that you have about a minute to use this password. After a minute, what will happen is that the clipboard, which is what happens essentially when you right click and copy something, it goes into, in Windows or in Linux, it's the clipboard. And you have a minute before the clipboard gets automatically cleared. This prevents you from copying your password, forgetting about it, and now it's stuck in the clipboard, and is prone to other attacks where password attacks where someone can grab the data that's in the clipboard, and now your admin password or other passwords are available. So there are other features. You can create different databases. There's plugins for certain things. But that's the gist of a password manager and how to install and configure KeePass. So there ain't much to it aside from generating your database, creating a encryption key and passphrase. I recommend having a passphrase and a key file, but what's recommended, or sorry, what's required is just one or the other. So either a passphrase or just a key file. But again, I do recommend both. So I hope this video was informative. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below. And you can always visit me on my website, shawmancini.com. See you guys soon. Thank you.